What's up, YouTube? So, if you guys have been following recently, you'll have known that I started playing Bel'Veth about a week ago. And within that week of playing Bel'Veth and learning the champion, I've actually managed to get Masters with an 80% win rate, and have actually gotten rank 1 NA on League of Graphs because of it. So if you guys look at League of Graphs, you can see that I got to Masters with a 78% win rate over 60 games. And yeah, we were currently playing in like Masters 300, 400 LP, GM, MMR, winning the vast majority of our games. So the reason why I decided to make this YouTube video today is to kind of go over Bel'Veth, what she does, and kind of like an all-around guide as to how I learned this champion in literally less than 7 days and managed to already become the best player in the region on her. So, to start off, we're going to do the rune setup. So, on Bel'Veth, I know that there are some people that talk about Lethal Tempo versus Conquer, right? And the reason why you always want to go Conquer is because, as weird as this is going to sound, Bel'Veth doesn't really auto-attack in teamfights usually. If she has nothing else, typically she might, but most of the time you're actually going to be looking for Qs and your Es and your R resets to do the majority of your damage. So, because of that, Conquer is actually a much better rune choice than Lethal Tempo. So I always run Conquer with Triumph, Legend Tenacity, the majority of the time, unless the enemy team has 0 CC. And then after I go Coup de Grace. And then for secondary runes, I go Magical Footwear and Futures Market. And the reason why is so that I can get early power spikes as often as possible. Because with Futures Market, it allows you to get Noon Quiver on your first reset, even if you only have 1100 gold, right? And since you don't need to put the gold into buying boots, it's also super cost efficient as well. So this is the rune setup that I've been running every single game. So as for how Bel'Veth's abilities actually work, so she has her QWER, right, just like any other champion, normal. But a lot of people don't actually understand how her abilities really work. So the way your Q works is that you can Q in 4 different directions, and this Q applies on-hit effects and it does damage, right? And after you Q, the cooldown of the Q for each side scales down based on attack speed. So right now we have 12.2 attack speed, but if I were to sit here and buy a bunch of different attack speed items, then instead of being 12.2 seconds, it's only 9.2, right? So that's why attack speed on the champion is really good, because it allows you to reduce your Q CD. So now as for your W, what your W does is it is a knockup that then slows, but it also resets your Q in this direction. So if you were to Q and then you W, you can Q again in that direction. Now, another interesting thing that I didn't even know on Bel'Veth, so you can actually reset your Q in 2 different directions, right? So like let's say you do this and you Q in both these directions, but then you Q or you W the guy here, then it resets both Qs, right? So the reason why it does that is because it's just because like on any of the cardinal points, you can reset both if you get an enemy that is exactly there. But it needs to be like exactly on the points, right? So it's really rare that you're gonna find that happen, but when it does, right? So like here. Alright, well even then, well whatever, you saw it earlier, right? So that's all matters. So that's how her W works, and then her E, the way it works is it's a damage reduction and then execute. So she takes 70% reduced damage while she's actually channeling, and then while she's channeling as well, she gets increased lifesteal, so she heals back a lot. But the thing is, it's a really really high cooldown, right? And then as for her ult, the way her ult works is that when she kills a neutral objective, so I'll show you guys something. When she kills a neutral objective, whether it be tower or dragon, or even like or not tower, but like dragon or herald or baron or even a champion, she has access to her ult form, right? But the thing about Bel'Veth's ult form is depending on which, like whether it be dragon, herald, or the other thing you get it from, it gives you different effects. So let's say you get it from only a kill or from dragon, right? And then we press this and we get in our ult form. So we're always able to Q over walls. That's the first thing. But what also happens is we only get 60 seconds of the ult form. But if you get the ult form from Rift Herald or from Baron, since they're void monsters, then your ult form actually lasts 180 seconds. And not only that, but when you go near minions, it's going to spawn these little monsters to help you push waves. And you don't get these little monsters if you get your ult form from kills or from dragons. And now we'll talk about itemization, right? So with Bel'Veth, I know that there are some people that talk about doing Bork, right, and all these different weird builds, but I'll tell you what I've been doing every single game. So every game I'll go Hailblade with refillable potion, and as for actual items, what I do, I always start off with a Kraken Slayer. And then I either build Ninja Tabby or Merc Treads, depending on the game. I never really go Berserker's Greaves. So if the enemy team has CC, then you're going to want to get Merc Treads. If they don't and they're primarily auto attackers, then you're going to want to go Ninja Tabby, right? After you build your boots, this is where the actual itemization comes into play. If you're going Kraken Slayer into Ninja Tabby, but the enemy team still has a lot of magic damage, then afterwards you want to grab a Wit's End actually. So you're going to go Wit's End, and then after Wit's End, if you need more damage and you're really far ahead, you can go Bork. If not, you can just go for Death's Dance. Okay, and then let's say you go, let's say you have your Bork and you have your Death's Dance, then your next items can be some options that I've been experimenting with, where like you can go Anathemas, for example, just to make yourself tankier, or other tank items. But at this point, you don't need to go Gwynsus, you don't need to go Titanic Hydra. You're a lot better off just going for like straight tank items, right? So like let's say you need Randuins, if you need Force of Nature, items like this. So a typical full build for me in the vast majority of my games is going to look like this. Let's say you're going to be getting an early Merc Treads, then you don't really need early MR. So usually if I go Kraken into Merc Treads, that's when I go Blade of the Ruined King. And then after Blade of the Ruined King, if they still have a lot of magic damage, I go Force of Nature. If not, we just go Death's Dance. And then you complete the other item, and after that you can build whatever you need, right? So like let's say you need Randuins, then you can just grab that and you're good. So that's about it for itemization. Now as for pathing. So this is a big part about Bel'Veth. That a lot of people don't really understand, and it's part of the reason why she isn't picked as often as she actually is, or as she should be, in my opinion. So when you're pathing on Bel'Veth, the worst thing to do is full clear, always. Because with your gang setup, let me show you something. We're going to spawn an enemy dummy mid, and imagine they're pushed up at this halfway point. Let's teleport here. If I'm level 3, so like, let's say you're waiting in this bush and you just cleared raptors or like red or whatever, you can go for something like this. So you Q onto the enemy, and now at this point if they flash away, you can just W on them and Q onto them again, right, for the kill. And since you're always taking flash early game, what that allows you to do is it allows you to even go for like a flash Q into W play, right? So like imagine I've just full cleared my bot side, and I can do this. I can literally just do this. And then if they flash away, I can just run them down after. So because of how good Bel'Veth's ganks are, you always want to be looking for early ganks. So that's why my typical pathing is either blue into Gromp Wolves and then look for play bot side, or it's red into Raptors Gromp and then look for play around top side. What this allows you to do is it allows you to path towards whichever lane you think is going to be more volatile, right? So for example, let's say you have a Blitzcrank Silver bot lane and the enemy team drafts Twitch with Zillion, right? You have a lot of ganks set up bot, so you'd probably want to path towards bot that game. So all you have to do is sit here, right? You do your clear, as normal. And then you can just do your 3-cam clear, and then by the time you finish, if the enemy bot lane is shoving in, then you have enough ganks up to just like kill them and take them down, right? So that's why this is how your typical gang, or your typical like clear is going to look. You're going to double cam clear the blue Gromp, and then afterwards you just make it to Wolves. So that's how you play kind of like the early game, right? You just want to 3-cam towards a certain lane, whether it be bot or top. And then after you 3-cam clear towards this lane and you gank that lane, you want to get as many summoners as possible and then just keep re-ganking that lane over and over and over again. If the enemy team has, for example, an Aatrox top and you have a Volley Bear, then what you're going to want to do is get the Aatrox's flash early with a gank, and then just go back and re-gank and re-gank and re-gank again. That way what you can do is you can just play for all the neutral objectives now with your winning top laner, and you can win the game for free. So playing Bel'Veth, one of the things that I've learned is that it's not actually about farming on the champion as much as it is securing neutral objectives and just ganking the lanes that allow you to get a lead that you can then secure every neutral objective for free. And then once you get all the heralds and once you get all the barons and everything, then you're good, and then you just win the game for free. So with that being said, if you guys found this guide helpful, if you're gonna use these tips in solo queue, be sure to leave a like and sub. And if you're interested in watching more Bel'Veth content, I'll be uploading a lot more in the next few days, weeks, whatever. So I hope to see you guys all next video. Peace.